phenomenon.
Oh, man.
People are romancing each other through the modern equivalent of writing letters, which is sending emails. Rue, it's a pleasure to see you again and coming in today to talk to us about your new book, My First Five Husbands and the Ones Who Got Away. You know, you are at this point perhaps best known for your Emmy Award-winning role as the unstoppable siren Blanche Devereaux on Golden Girls, the long-running comedy series that has become one of the most popular shows in television history.
Isn't it amazing?
It is a true phenomenon in terms of television. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be cast as Blanche?
I'd been in a show called Mama's Family, playing a very boring role of Aunt Fran, who wore little Peter Pan collars, and she was very prim and well, they killed me. Aunt Fran choked on a chicken bone. This was great. They killed me off in 1984. Well, at the time I wasn't that thrilled, but I didn't mind that much either. So I was doing guest shots and guest shots and guest shots, and that was first miracle. In 1985, I was still free of a TV show, a series, when along came the script, and they wanted me to read for the role of Rose. And they had Betty White in mind for Blanche, but when I read the script, I said, no, this won't work. I've got to do Blanche, I've got to do Blanche. My agent said, forget it. Betty White is almost signed, but go in and read for Rose if you're interested in being in the show. Well, I knew the show was going to be a runaway hit. I could tell from the script. Susan Harris wrote a brilliant pilot. So I went in, and for Jay Sandrich, the director who was directing just the pilot, I read Rose. And while I'm reading, he's looking at me and looking at me. Of course, you're reading with a stage manager who talks, who reads about like a, repairman would read a script. So he said, would you do a favor for me? Jay Sandrich said, would you take the script? He said, it's very unorthodox of me to ask you to do this. Would you take the script down the hall, go into a spare room, and just look at the role of Blanche? And I said, well, if you insist. So I went down the hall. Oh my God, I practically had it memorized anyway. And I came back and read Blanche, and he thanked me. The next thing I know, I've been called in again, and this time Betty White's called in. He wants to hear us read Rose and Blanche, but to her great amazement, he wants her to read Rose. Well, she's quite taken aback. We read Rose and Blanche. They thanked us. We left. Next thing I know, I've talked B. Arthur into doing Dorothy. Because when she found out, first of all, she turned Golden Girls down. But when she found out that I called her on the phone, well, Susan Harris asked me if I'd call her and try and talk her into it. They'd already hired Estelle Getty. I said, what's the matter with you turning down the best script that's ever going to come into your life? And she said, she said, I don't want to do Maud and Vivian meet Betty White. I said, that's not what it is. She's playing the Vivian part. She's playing the nitwit, empty-headed, blank-eyed person. I'm playing Blanche, the vamp, the Betty White persona that she'd already been doing. Well, now she said, that's interesting. So she was on board. So the four of us are called into NBC in front of the suits in a big office, and we read. And they wet their pants. They had found their cast.
It's been a pleasure, Rue. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've only had the opportunity to work with two people of his caliber, Norman Lear and Brandon, in television. I met him in 1985 when we first started Golden Girls, and he was always a man of vision, of course, and foresight and great courage. He took chances, and he won most of the time. I don't think we'll have another one like him for a long time. Without him, there would have been no Golden Girls. That was his idea. He was told he was crazy by everybody. Nobody would watch a show with three older women. I got to ride up with him to #1, and it was a wonderful ride, and he was a wonderful man.